Hi there, I'm Wendy, and in this video I'm going to take you through the very basic steps and introduce you to following crochet charts, and I'm going to teach you using this little flower motif here. So the brilliant thing about following charts is that A, you can look back and you can check your work, and B, charts are universal language wise. So whether you're following UK stitches or American stitches, the chart symbols are all the same, and it's a lot quicker to recognize and read a chart than it is to read a really long crochet pattern. So grab a hook and some yarn and come along with me and have a go at doing this. I'll be using some UK double knitting yarn, and the yarn I'm using today is Stylecraft Special DK, and I'm using a 4mm hook along with that. But you can use any weight of yarn, just check your ball band and make sure that you're using the corresponding size hook. And if you'd like a paper pattern of the free crochet chart, you can get that directly from my website, which is www.wendypool.com, and I'll pop a direct link in the description notes below for you. So the way this is going to work is the chart symbols in the diagram to the side are going to grow as we go. So as we complete each step, you're going to see that section of the chart symbols, and then by the time we've completed the flower, then you'll see the chart symbols of the flower in the whole piece, and you'll be able to recognize them and understand them for the future, and it will help you when you're looking at other charts. So just before we start, if you're new to my channel, it would be great if you subscribed, and then you'll get to hear when my next videos and updates go live. And if you like the video, it would be lovely if you gave me a thumbs up as well. But let's just get started and start making this flower and working our first crochet chart. So I'm all ready to start, and the first thing I see on the diagram to the side is a black dot. Now that black dot represents a slip knot, and it's the same whether you're using UK stitches or USA stitches. So I'm going to make my slip knot. There we go, and I'm going to pop that on my hook. Now, if you take a look on the chart, you can see that there's some little oval shapes, and they look like little grains of rice, and I've numbered these as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6, and each one of those represents a chain. So I'm now going to make 6 chain. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And then if I take a look at my chain and I bend it round back to the beginning, you can see that it's creating a circle. So if you look at the diagram now, there's a little black dot that's joining the circle together. Now that black dot is the same as the slip knot, and that black dot can either represent a slip knot at the beginning of your chain when you start, or it can represent a slip stitch, which is joining something together. So I'm just going to make a slip stitch into the very first chain here, just as it shows in the diagram. So I'm just going into the side of the chain and making my slip stitch. Now again, a slip stitch is the same name whether you're using UK or American stitches. So far so good. And so if we take a look at our diagram, we can now see that we've got this little circle made up of these little oval shapes, each one representing a chain. And if we look at our work, we've got this little circle now made of chain stitches. So we're now ready to start round 1. So we're now ready to start round 1, and if we take a look at our diagram, we can see that we've got one of these little oval shapes that represents a chain, and this one is just standing up vertically. So we're just going to make that one chain. And the reason that we've done that is every time that you're working a round of UK double crochet stitches or USA single crochet stitches, you always start with one chain just to stop the beginning of your round just pulling tight and snagging at the beginning of the round. So we can now see that we've got our chain here, and that corresponds with our chart. And then when we look at the chart, we can see now that we've got some crosses going all the way around the edge of this chain. So if we count them, you'll see that altogether there's 12 crosses, and each cross represents one stitch, and the cross represents a UK double crochet stitch, which is also known as single crochet if you're using American stitch terminology. So these little crosses that are going around the ring, they just mean that we need to work 12 stitches into the ring. So as I said before, it's UK double crochet stitch, or if you're using American terminology, it's the USA single crochet stitch. So I'm now just going to make my 12 double crochet. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and I'm just going to open up my ring. I'm going to push my stitches away in one direction and open up my ring in the other direction. 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I've now made my 12 stitches in this ring, and if I look at the chart, I can see that I've now got a ring with 12 stitches going around the edge, and I've got this corresponding in the crochet that I've just worked. So now, taking a look at the chart, now we can see that there's another little black dot joining the beginning and the end of the round, and it's joining the last stitch of the round to the first stitch of the round, and again that's a slip stitch, and the slip stitch is the same stitch. It has the same name whether you're using UK terms or USA terms. So I'm just going to join to the first stitch of my round with a slip stitch, and I'm now ready to work round 2. So now if you take a look at the diagram, you can see that we've got 5 oval shapes, and they're bending round into a form of upside down U shape. So that means that we're going to make 5 chain. So I'm going to make 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you can see that the loop has joined down in the second stitch along. It's missed one of the crosses, and the stitch comes down with a little dot into the second cross. So what that means is we're going to miss that first stitch here, that first UK double crochet stitch or USA single crochet stitch, and in the second stitch we're going to join in our crochet, and because it's got a little dot, we know that that's a slip stitch again. So I'm just going to miss this first stitch, and in the second stitch I'm going to make a slip stitch. And you can see now that I've got this little loop here, and that corresponds with the loop that shows in the diagram. So now if we take a look at the diagram again, we've got another 5 chain, and as you can see, it's missed the next stitch, and in the second stitch it's now got a little dot there, and so we're going to make 5 chain and join it with a slip stitch to the second stitch along. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. And then I'm going to miss that next stitch, and in the following stitch where that little dot is, I'm going to make a slip stitch. Now if you take a look at the diagram, you'll see that the petals have appeared all the way around, and there's 6 of them, and so each petal has got 5 chains. You miss a stitch, and then you're joining with a slip stitch into the second stitch along. So I'm going to make my next 5 chain, miss a stitch, and in the second stitch I'm going to make a slip stitch, and then again I'm going to make 5 chain, miss a stitch, and in the second stitch, if I take a look at my diagram, I'm going to make a slip stitch. And when I take a look at my work, I can now see that I've got 1, 2, 3 little petal shapes here, and I've got 3 more to make. So I'm going to make my next 5 chain, miss a stitch, and in the following stitch make a slip stitch. So I've now got 4 petals made. And if I take a look at my diagram, you can see that there's 2 more left to make. So I'm going to make 5 chain, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and then miss a stitch, and in the second stitch make a slip stitch. And then we've got our last couple of stitches left here, so I'm going to make my last 5 chain just like the diagram shows. That's my second, third, fourth and fifth, and then I'm going to just join to the second stitch here, and I have finished my round and join with a slip stitch. So now when you take a look at the chart diagram, you can see that we have this flower shape that has now appeared, and if you look at your work it should correspond. So you'll have a circle which you can identify by the 6 chains that are in the diagram, and then we've got our 6 petals, each one consisting of 5 chain all the way around the edge. So we're now ready to work round 3, which is our last and final round in this crochet chart. So if you take a look at the first petal, you'll see that there's now appeared 6 crosses all the way around the edge. Now, as I said before, the cross represents the UK double crochet stitch, and it's also known as the USA single crochet stitch. But basically, it's got the same chart symbol, so it's nice and easy now. And so just to give a final count, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 crosses in that petal, and so I'm just going to work them here in my first petal of my flower. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. And now if you look at the next petal in the diagram, again we've got 6 crosses appear. So again in the next petal we're going to make 6 UK double crochet stitches or USA single crochet stitches. So I'm just jumping straight across, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So we've now got 2 petals complete, and if we take a look at our chart, you can now see that all of the petals have got 6 crosses around the edge. So basically that just means that in each of these loops you're going to be working 6 UK double crochet stitches or 6 USA single crochet stitches. So I'm now just going to carry on working 6 stitches in each of these loops, and I'll meet you at the end. So I'm now back at the end of the round, and if we take a look at our chart, you can see that there's one final black dot at the end of round 3 and the beginning of round 3. And so that just means that we're just going to join it with a slip stitch, and then we can fasten off. So I'm just joining with my slip stitch, and I'm going to snip my yarn just leaving enough to darn in, and then fasten off. And that is your little flower complete. So if you take a look now at this chart, which would have looked very confusing at the beginning, you can see that you've made your circle with your 6 chain, and then you've worked a round of 12 stitches, making UK double crochet stitches or USA single crochet stitches. You then went on to work round 2, which was making these loops here, which when you take a look at the chart, you can see that they consisted of 5 chain, and each chain was linked together with a slip stitch. And then finally in round 3, you just worked 6 stitches in each loop and joined it up with a slip stitch at the end. And these stitches, again, they were either known as the UK double crochet stitch or the American single crochet stitch. So give yourself a big well done for following your first crochet chart, and don't forget, if you're new to my channel, then it would be great if you subscribed, because you'll get to hear when my next videos and updates go live. And it would also be lovely if you gave me a thumbs up if you've enjoyed this video. So for now, I'll just say happy crocheting and keep looking at charts, and I hope that you start using them, because I rely on them all the time. So for now, I'll just say happy crocheting, take care, and see you soon. Bye.